Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we are going to talk about Russia and Belarus and that announcement and whether or not it was a good idea and how an idea, just like anything else, needs to be done in moderation. If you missed it, the head of Belarus basically said, hey, if you join our union state with Russia, Russia will give you nukes. A whole bunch of eyebrows went up. Okay, so before we go further, this is one of those videos where I'm explaining how something works, not saying I agree with it. I am obviously against the spread of nuclear weapons. That being said, is it a smart foreign policy move on Russia's part? Yeah, it is. There are a lot of countries all over the world that are adversarial to the West. And they're probably reluctant to cozy up to Russia because Russia doesn't actually have the greatest history either. And after seeing what has happened in Ukraine, the idea that Russia would be able to protect that country from the West, that doesn't really hold a lot of water. But if they could convince these countries that they might get possession of tactical nuclear weapons, well, maybe that's a reason for them to kind of warm up to Moscow. It makes sense. Now, there's a couple of little caveats here. First and foremost is they're not actually going to be giving them nukes. They're going to be duplicating what the U.S. does, which is placing U.S. nukes in another country and still retaining control of them. It's there for their defense, but make no mistake about it, Russia is going to have control of it, which it's when you're talking about tactical stuff, there's still a big proliferation worry there. And the security is there. There's a lot of issues and criticisms that are going to arise from this, but they're going to arise from countries that are already adversarial to Russia. So it's not like they are really going to consider them that much. So the offer is a good move on the foreign policy stage. Not saying the spread of nukes is a good thing. Following through with it to any large degree, that's a horrible move. The offer is smart. Making people think that that's a possibility is smart. Actually handing out nukes like candy, it's not a good move. And it's not just from the perspective of the spread of nuclear weapons is bad. Russia, prior to this conflict, was perceived as a near peer. Militarily, they're not anymore. The only reason they even remotely retain that status is the fact that they have nukes. They have a large nuclear arsenal. That's it. If they start handing them out, it doesn't really elevate the status of the countries that they're positioned in. Because realistically, if the U.S., as an example, wanted to spread democracy there or whatever, the other countries don't have the air defense to stop wherever that thing is stored from being destroyed in the opening wave. So militarily, it's not going to be super effective. It's a cool deterrent, nice foreign policy piece. But they start handing them out, it doesn't raise the security of that country. And it also puts the West in a position, and the civilians of the West in a position where they might see a nuclear power be hit. They had nukes, and the U.S. took them down without an issue. That's a really bad that's a bad precedent for Russia to set. Going up against Russia versus a smaller country that has even less military power is very different. But the average American isn't going to know that. They're not going to view it that way. As soon as Russia gives a tactical nuke to country X, and then a Western power defeats country X, it sets the idea that, well, that can be done. It doesn't increase the prestige of the countries that are receiving them. It lowers Russia's, because then there are going to be a bunch of countries that have bad militaries and have nukes. So the offer, putting that out there, that's smart on the foreign policy scene. Following through with it, oh, that's a horrible idea. I don't foresee Russia actually transferring them to a lot of countries, especially countries that are not directly territorially connected to Russia, or those that just decide to become allies or help them evade sanctions or whatever now. It's a nice propaganda stunt, and it's probably the best foreign policy decision they've made since this whole thing started. But if they follow through with it, something that's good becomes bad. If Russia's smart, this is a promise that takes a really long time to fulfill. Well, we have to make sure security's up to snuff in your country. We have to make sure that the stability is there. You have to be a long-term member, and they'll start setting more conditions on it to push the actual transfer back. But at the end of it, Russia's probably still going to maintain 100% control of this stuff at all times. It'll just be pre-positioned in their country. Now, the obvious question, is this something to worry about? The spread of nuclear weapons is always something to worry about. But I don't think that this means something is imminent. This is a bold foreign policy move, not a military one. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.